Hi, and thanks for watching. In this video, I wanted to do just a short discussion around Bagua training and training the postures and training the changes. So looking at how these two components fit together, but also a very important training principle to keep in mind to avoid getting confused when we change from one to the other. So within Bagua training, there's a common progression even through the variations in the different styles and the different approaches to go starting first with posture training. Posture training, there's typically 8 different postures. What the postures are will vary from one style to the next, and how they're held is different from one to the next. But for example, there is something like double hands supporting the heavens. So there's a posture that's held as a student walks the circle. And of course, walking the other way, holding the posture as you walk the circle. And then going from one posture, right, through to another posture, then to another posture, so on and so forth. So working through the different postures while walking the circle. This is sort of the foundational training. And then from there, the training progresses to the changes. The changes are the short techniques, short routines that involve the training of the footwork and the hand techniques. And again, these will vary in terms of how they're performed from one style to the next. So instead of getting focused and caught up on the details within one style and how a posture is held or how a change is performed, I want to look first at the reasons behind this, what the goals of this training are, these 2 phases, and then an important change in your training approach that needs to happen when you switch from one to the other. So the posture training, of course, is a process of conditioning the body. There needs to be the ability for the lower half of the body to be agile and stable and able to move freely. With that support, then the upper body is able to then find the alignment that connects to this lower body, contain the internal power that's being cultivated through the circle walking, and then extend the alignment and that internal power out to the arms. So we want something that focuses on finding the structure or the frame within each of the different postures and finding the way to extend or integrate the body from the extremities, the arms, through to the shoulders, through to the torso, and from the torso into the low back and into the dantian, the lower abdomen, and from there build the agility and mobility and stability of the movement through the legs. So that's the first part, the posture training, right, is focusing on this dynamic, right? With each posture, the alignment through the body, the conditioning and the development of the ligaments and tendons, the structure and the channels is emphasized a little bit differently from this posture here, for example, through to this posture here, etc., etc. Right? There's a need to develop familiarity, physical innate ability to find these alignments in the body and be able to move into them without having to think about it too much. And so this is a purpose of the posture training. From there, once you start to develop some of that innate ability, then the training moves to the changes, right? And the changes, as I was mentioning before, involves developing the vocabulary around footwork and around hand techniques And again, from one style to the next these will vary depending on the influences and traditions within that style, the internal logic within the style, the way the body is held, the way the movements are done will vary and characteristic from one to the next. But the overall principle, training principle, is the same. Having built the internal power, having defined these different types of alignments and structures, being able to apply them and move through them from one point in time, one place and point to the next, to be able to apply different techniques fluidly is that second half of the training. Now here's the important mental adjustment that we need to do in our training to be able to switch and effectively train one compared to the other. And it's that when we're training the changes, we have to approach them differently than when we're training postures. This is particularly difficult sometimes when people have come from a background of something like Tai Chi. Because with Tai Chi, again, there's this emphasis on postures, and consciously and or unconsciously, people become used to finding a posture, holding it, just even if it's just for a brief second, and then moving on to the next posture and hitting that posture, and then moving on from there to the next. For Bagua, we need to, for Bagua, when we're doing the changes, we need to not fall into this training mentality. We need to focus on the continuous change and flow from one part of the change to the next, to the next, to the next. So for example, if we're doing a change and we're thinking of postures, then we end up hitting these particular points and then losing the continuity that is so important to Bagua. What we want to do instead is keep the change as a continuous, connected, flowing movement. This is not a question of fast or slow. You can have a change and perform a change slowly and still have it become, stay connected, not focus on postures. So this is an important distinction. So when we're doing postures, we want to focus on training postures. When we're training changes, we want to focus on change, on a continuous, smooth, dynamic flow, and finding the ways that our body shifts from one position to the next fluidly. And of course, this comes back to one of the central principles, martial strategies in relation to Bagua, central to Bagua, which is that you must never stop. There's the second last of the 48 verses of Bagua, which has a line which says, if you stop, you are like fallen flowers, meaning that you're offer no resistance. You're something on the ground that is just, people can just step over or walk over. And so what is crucial to Bagua as a martial art is this continuous change and adaptation, always flowing, always moving, always adjusting. But of course, that's not where we start. If we start with constantly changing and moving without first developing this internal power, without developing an innate ability to find these proper structures, proper frames, proper ways of holding the body that connects and integrates the body as a dynamic whole. If we don't have those, then we don't have Bagua. If we have that, but we don't have the flow, again, we don't have Bagua. So the training needs to move from posture training to changes training and back, and the fluid dynamic between these to be able to progress. So I hope this information is helpful for you. Keep training, keep practicing, and take care.